prayer.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming together to immerse ourselves in this rich body of wisdom we call Torah. We're going to read through this week's Torah portion in English translation, and this week's Torah portion is called Shelach, Lecha. It's in the book of Numbers, beginning at chapter 13 with verse 1. And after we've read through our portion in English translation, we'll share what we each encountered in it, what provoked us, what interested us, and we will have a rich time together. So if you'd like to join me in reciting a blessing, giving thanks for this moment, feel free to do so. Baruch
atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech
melech
haolam.
haolam
Asher
Kishanu b'mitzvotav
v'tzivanu
la'asot
la'asot b'divrei Torah.
Torah. Amen.
God, for the opportunity to immerse ourselves in words and deeds and relationships of Torah. I'll share with you the opening verses, and then I'll invite others to have an opportunity to read as well, if so choose. So once again, we're in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, beginning with verse 1. God spoke to Moses, saying, "Send men to scout the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelite people. Send one man from each of their ancestral tribes, each one a chieftain among them." So Moses, by God's command, sent them out from the wilderness of Paran, all the men being leaders of the Israelites. And these were their names. From the tribe of Reuben, Shemua, son of Zakur. From the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat, son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. From the tribe of Issachar, Igal, son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hosea, son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, son of Sodi. From the tribe of Joseph, namely the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, son of Gamaliel. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur, son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, son of Boshi. From the tribe of Gad, Geuel, son of Machi. Those were the names of the men whom Moses sent to scout the land. But Moses changed the name of Hosea, son of Nun, to Joshua. Richard, would you like to read verse 17?
Yes, thank you, Ellen. He sent them to scout the land of Canaan. He said to them, "Go up there into the Negev and on into the hill country and see what kind of country it is. Are the people who dwell there in it strong or weak, few or many? Is the country in which they dwell good or bad? Are the towns they live in open or fortified? Is the soil rich or poor? Is the wooded or not? And take pains to bring back home some of the fruit of the land." Now it happened to be the season of the first ripe grapes. They went up and scouted the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob at Lebahamath. They went up into the Negev and came to the Hebron, where lived Ahiman, Shesah, Talmar, the Ankites. Now Hebron was founded even years before Zoan of Egypt. They reached the Wadi Eshcol, and there they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes. Had to be borne on a carrying frame by two of them, and some pomegranates and figs. That place was named the Wadi Eshcol because of the cluster that the Israelites cut down.
Thank you, Richard. Mark, are you up to reading? Do you want to read a little bit? What verse?
Yes, I can read.
25.
Thank you. At the end of 40 days, they returned from scouting the land. They went straight to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran. And they made their report to them and to the whole community. as they showed them the fruit of the land. This is what they told him. We came to the land you sent us to. It does indeed flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. However, the people who inhabit the country are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw the Anakites there. The Amalekites dwell in the Negev region. Nebusites, Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites inhabit the hill country, and Canaanites dwell by the sea along the Jordan. Caleb hushed the people before Moses and said, "Let us by all means go up, and we shall gain possession of it, for we shall surely overcome it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We cannot attack that people, for it is stronger than we." Thus they spread calumnies among the Israelites about the land they had scouted, saying, "The country that we traveled or traversed and scouted is one that devours its settlers. All the people that we saw in it are men of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The Anakites are part of the Nephilim, and we looked like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked to them."
Thank you, Mark. And Jim, now we're at the start of chapter 14, if you'd like to read a bit.
Thank you, Rabbi. The whole community broke into loud cries, and the people wept that night. All the Israelites railed against Moses and Aaron. "If only we had died in the land of Egypt," the whole community shouted at them. "Or if only we might die in this wilderness. Why is God taking us that land to fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be carried off. It would be better for us to go back to Egypt." And they said to one another, "Let us head back for Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembled congregation of the Israelites. And Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, of these who had scouted the land, rent their clothes and exhorted the whole Israelite community. "The land that we traversed and scouted is an exceedingly good land. If God is pleased with us, he will bring us into that land, a land that flows with milk and honey, and give it to us. Only you must not rebel against God. Have no fear then of the people of the country, for they are our prey. Their protection has departed from them, but God is with us. Have no fear of them," as the whole community threatened to pelt them with stones. The presence of God appeared in the tent of meeting to all the Israelites.
Thank you, Jim. Margot, we're now at verse 11, if you'd like to read.
Thank you. And the Lord said to Moses, "How long will this people spurn me? And how long will they have no faith in me, despite all the signs that I have performed in their midst? I shall strike them with pestilence and disown them, disown them. And I will make of you a nation far more numerous than they." But Moses said to the Lord, when the Egyptians from whose midst you brought up this people in your might, wait a minute. When the Egyptians whose midst you brought up these people in your might, I'm sorry.
When the Egyptians
Whose might
brought up
hear the news. Oh, when these people hear the news, they will tell it to the inhabitants of the land. Now they have heard of you, O Lord, and are in the midst of its people, that you, O Lord, appear in plain sight. When your cloud rests over them, and when you go before them in the pillar of the cloud by day, and in the pillar of fire by night. If then you say this people to a man, you slay this people to a man. If then you slay people to a man. The nations who have heard of your fame will say, it must be because the Lord was powerless to bring that people into the land he had promised them, and the oath he he and the oath he he slaughtered them in the wilderness. Therefore, I pray, my Lord, forbearance, be great as you have declared, saying, the Lord shows no anger and abounding in kindness, forgiving the iniquity and transgressions, yet not remitting the punishment, but visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the third and fourth generations. Pardon, I pray, the inequity of this people according to your great kindness, as you have forgiven this people over since Egypt.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Carl, we're at verse 20, if you'd like to read.
Sure, thank you. And Adonai said, I pardon as you have asked. Nevertheless, as I live and as Adonai's presence fills the whole world, none of the men who have seen my presence and the signs that I have performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, and who have tried me these many times and have disobeyed me, shall see the land that I promised on the oath to their fathers. None of those who spurn me shall see it. But my servant Caleb, because he was imbued with a different spirit and remained loyal to me, him will I bring into the land that he entered, and his offspring shall hold it as a possession. Now the Amalekites and the Canaanites occupy the valleys. Start out then tomorrow and march into the wilderness by the way of the Sea of Reeds. Adonai spoke further to Moses and Aaron. How much longer shall that wicked community keep muttering against me? Very well, I have heeded the incessant muttering of the Israelites against me. Say to them, as I live, says Adonai, I will do it to you just as you have urged me. In this very wilderness shall your carcass drop. Wow. Of all of you who were recorded in your various lists from the age of 20 years up, you who have muttered against me, not one shall enter the land in which I swore to settle you, save Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. Your children, you said, would be carried off. These will I allow to enter. They shall know the land that you have rejected. But your carcass shall drop in the wilderness, while your children roam the wilderness for 40 years, suffering for your faithlessness, until the last of your carcasses is down in the wilderness. You shall bear your punishment for 40 years, corresponding to the number of days, 40 days that you scattered the land, a year for each day. Thus you shall know what it means to thwart me. I, Adonai, have spoken. Thus will I do to all that wicked band that has banded together against me. In this very wilderness they shall die to the last man.
Thank you, Carl. Dave, we're at verse 36, if you'd like to read.
As for the men whom Moses sent to scout the land, those who came back and caused the whole community to mutter against him by spreading calumnies about the land, those who spread such calumnies about the land died of plague by the will of the Lord. Of those men who had gone to scout the land, only Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, survived. When Moses repeated these words to all the Israelites, the people were overcome with grief. Early next morning, they sent out toward the crest of the hill country, saying, We are prepared to go up to the place that the Lord has spoken of, for we were wrong. But Moses said, Why do you transgress the Lord's command? This will not succeed. Do not go up lest you be routed by your enemies, for the Lord is not in your midst. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites will be there to face you, and you will fall by the sword, inasmuch as you have turned from following the Lord, and the Lord will not be with you. Yet defiantly they marched toward the crest of the hill country, though neither the Lord's ark of the covenant nor Moses stirred from the camp. And the Amalekites and the Canaanites who dwell in that hill country came down and dealt them a shattering blow at Hormah.
Thank you, Dave. Catherine, we're starting chapter 15 if you'd like to read.
Thank you, Rabbi. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land that I'm giving you to settle in, and would present an offering by fire to Adonai from the herd or from the flock, be it burnt offering or sacrifice in fulfillment of a vow explicitly uttered, or as a freewill offering, or at your fixed occasions, producing an odor pleasing to the Lord. The person who presents the offering to the Lord shall bring as a meal offering a tenth of a measure of choice flour with a quarter of a hin of oil mixed in. You shall also offer with the burnt offering or the sacrifice a quarter of a hin of wine as a libation for each sheep. In the case of a ram, you shall present as a meal offering 2/10 of a measure of choice flour with a third of a hin of oil mixed in, and a third of a hin of wine as a libation, as an offering of pleasing odor to Adonai. And if it is an animal from the herd that you offer to Adonai as a burnt offering or as a sacrifice, in fulfillment of a vow explicitly uttered or as an offering of well-being, there shall be offered a meal offering along with the animal, 3/10 of a measure of choice flour with half a hin of oil mixed in, and a libation you shall offer half a hin of wine, those being offerings by fire of pleasing odor to Adonai.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Rose, we're now at verse 11 if you'd like to read. And you'll need to unmute if you'd like to participate.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so verse 11.
Yes, we're at verse 11.
Okay, hold on a sec. Wait a sec. Verse, it has disappeared. Hold on. Oh, okay. Verse 11. That shall be done with each ox, that one?
Yeah.
That shall be done with each ox, with each ram, and with any sheep or goat. As many as you offer, you shall do thus with each one, as many as there are. Every citizen, when presenting an offering by fire of pleasing odor to God, shall do so with them. And when throughout the ages a stranger who has taken up residence with you, or one who lives among you, would present an offering by fire of pleasing odor to God, as you do, so shall it be done by the rest of the congregation. There shall be one law for you and for the resident stranger. It shall be a law for all time throughout the ages. You and this stranger shall be alike before God. The same ritual and the same rules shall apply to you and to the stranger who resides among you. God spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land to which I am taking you, and you eat of the bread of the land, you shall set some aside as a gift to God. As the first yield of your baking, you shall set aside a loaf as a gift. You shall set it aside as a gift, like the gift from the threshing floor. You shall make a gift to God from the first yield of your baking throughout the ages. If you unwittingly fail to observe any of the commandments that God has declared to Moses, anything that God has enjoined upon you through Moses, from the day that God gave the commandment down on through the ages, if this was done unwittingly, through the inadvertence of the community, the whole community shall present one bull of the herd as a burnt offering of pleasing odor to God, with its proper grain offering and libation, and one he-goat as a purgation offering. The priest shall make expiation for the whole Israelite community, and they shall be forgiven, for it was an error. And for their error they have brought their offering, an offering by fire to God, and their purgation offering before God. The whole Israelite community and the stranger residing among them shall be forgiven, for it happened to the entire people through error.
Thank you so much, Rose. And then we're at verse 27, if you'd like to read.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Do you want me to?
Go ahead.
But if an individual sins inadvertently, he shall offer up a she-goat in its first year as a sin offering, and the Kohen shall atone for the erring soul, which sinned inadvertently before the Lord, so as to atone on his behalf, and it shall be forgiven him. One law shall apply to anyone who sins inadvertently, from the native born of the children of Israel and the proselyte who resides among them. But if a person should act high-handedly, whether he is a native born or a proselyte, he is blaspheming the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from among its people. For he has scorned the word of the Lord and violated his commandment. That soul shall be utterly cut off, for its iniquity is upon it. When the children of Israel were in the desert, they found a man gathering wood on the Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering wood presented him before Moses and Aaron and before the entire congregation. They put him under guard, since it was not specified what was to be done with him. And the Lord said to Moses, "The man shall be put to death. The entire congregation shall pelt him with stones outside the camp." So the entire congregation took him outside the camp, and they pelted him to death with stones as the Lord commanded Moses. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying,
Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them that they shall make for themselves for the fringes on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and they shall affix a thread of sky blue wool on the fringe of each corner. This shall be fringes to you, for you, and when you see it, you will remember all the commandments of the Lord and perform them. And you shall not wander after your hearts and after your eyes, after which you are going astray. So you shall remember and perform all my commandments, and you shall be holy to the Lord. I am the Lord your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God.
Thank you all so much. That's our Torah portion for the week. So just to place this portion in context, before we open it up for our discussion, just want to recognize that everything started out in the book of Numbers with this great sense of organization and order and forward movement and enthusiasm, and people were waving their flags and their banners, and it was almost as if they were just ready to just march right into the promised land. And then we started reading portions that hinted that there was some disgruntlement and some unease. And we noticed that the unease began at the fringes of the community, which is where the fire begins to burn. And then we read in the portions the past couple of weeks about how that sense of unease and disorientation perhaps spreads from the fringes into the very heart of the community itself, the leadership of the community, where Miriam and Aaron stepped forward and began criticizing Moses. And in this week's portion, we see that these scouts represented by the heads of each of the tribes, when they come back, they have this collapse of sense of capacity to fulfill the gift, the vision that's been given to them. And as Justin and Linda were just reading for us, the portion itself ends with something as blatantly transgressive as gathering wood on Shabbat, and that person is pelted to death, stoned to death. And the very last piece that Justin read had to do with this instruction from God to wear fringes of blue on the clothing, as if there's a recognition by the divine of how fragile people are, of how the tendency to go astray, to follow lustful urges in their hearts, and the need to have some kind of corrective protocol, reminder to try and keep people from going astray. So that's just kind of, for me, as I saw the context in which this portion is happening. What was it that intrigued you, or fascinated you, or provoked you, or that got you thinking about important things? So you raise your hand. Let's see, I've got Rose, go ahead. Rose, yeah, there you go.
Yes, I unmuted. Yeah, well, there are a couple of things that are interesting, because where does this come from? The first sentence is that God is saying, send spies to check out the land, when Hashem has already said that the land is great, it's fine. So I believe that there's a midrash that I think Rashi quotes, or maybe Rambam quotes, that says what happened was that the people wanted the spies to go. And I think in Devarim, in Deuteronomy, Moses is recalling everything. And he says that, he said, you guys wanted to send the spies into the land to check it out. He was recounting the whole history. He says, Bnei Israel did us. So, but then God just kind of went along with it and said, okay, you really want to go see that, do that. And I think that, if this is the case, that all this spying out and uncertainty is from the side of Bnei Israel, it makes a real contrast with Shelach Lecha, and what did we read in Bereshit? Lech Lecha. So it's the same thing. Hashem says to Avraham, leave where you are and go to a land where I will show you. And Avraham says, okay, and he does it. Here, we've gone full circle. Hashem is saying to Bnei Yisrael, go to this land that I'm going to show you, and it's a good place. And they're going, we're not so sure. So you've gone from this relationship with Hashem, with a single person, a patriarch who is unquestioning, who says, let's do it. And then you have this situation where they're going, we're not so sure. And then they lose faith in themselves. They say, we saw ourselves as grasshoppers. And for sure, the other people saw, the people who lived in Canaan saw us as grasshoppers. Well, how do they know that? Just because they saw themselves as grasshoppers. So they're losing confidence in themselves. They have no confidence in themselves. Then they have no confidence in Moshe. Then they have no confidence in Hashem. And Hosea, who becomes Joshua, his name changes because it says, God will save us. So it's, and he's the one who has faith. So I think it's fascinating that they're going back to the land again, but instead of saying going in faith, they're going,
So I think it's fascinating, first of all, that you contrast it with Lech Lecha, where the instruction from the divine is go forth for yourself, and there's no questioning apparently in the text by Abraham about doing this. And what you're suggesting is here, it's as if the instruction to go forth is coming from within the people themselves. And so the subject of the sending is changing from Book of Genesis to the Book of Numbers. But generally what you're pointing out is this kind of collapse. Some kind of collapse is happening at this moment. What the nature of that collapse is and what is really revealing, is full of all kinds of the commentary. But let's call upon Catherine and Dave and Richard here. So go ahead, Catherine.
Okay, just a brief observation. We have been through the instructions for offerings so many times before this. And I was thinking, what is this about? And it occurred to me that, this is the beginning of significant discontinuity in the community, and also in memory, the possibility of the loss of memory of, the journey that has happened until now. And so I see that as kind of like a gesture toward remembrance. And of course, Deuteronomy will, you know, uh, sort of accelerate that, but I sense this sort of concern here with that. The next generation, what are they going to know, and so on.
Thank you so much. This notion of the anxieties, that's a key part here. And what are the natures of anxieties? That also is something I think is worth fleshing out. But let's go on Dave, and then I've got Richard here. Go ahead, Dave.
I find the beginning of this Parsha very troubling when you come right down to it. Here we have the Israelites are going to conquer what looks like is a peaceful civilization that lives in the land of Canaan. And the order is to go in, take over, kick these people out who have done nothing to you except what you believe God is giving you marching orders to do. And I find that extremely troubling, plus some of the other things that have gone on later on, too.
Dave,
So I'll stop with that.
Dave, just say a little bit more about what was troubling. Say it again.
It's troubling. You have a peaceful civilization living in the land of Canaan. Apparently, they're farmers. They're very successful farmers. Look at the fruits of the food that they have grown themselves. And now the Israelites are being told to go in and take over these people.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially wipe them out, live in the houses that they built, take over the farms that they grew. And that's just against our sensibilities to do something like that when you come right down to it.
So you're focusing on this kind of political message of displacement of a people that's precedes them in that part of the world, right?
That's correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me call upon Richard here. Richard.
Well, anything spoke to us or said something, and I couldn't get over the number of times it said, make an odor pleasing to the Lord. So I just imagined this sense of what's wonderful, that's intoxicating.
Mm.
And that has something to do with what's going on and how people are behaving. Well, that's just a crazy thing. And I've sure said that a lot. An odor that is pleasing to the Lord. And we're going to make some differences here.
Mm.
So everybody's good.
Everybody, the sense of intoxication, I like that. That's an interesting lesson. Thank you. All right, let me call upon David and Susan, and then I've got Deborah. Go ahead, David and Susan.
So the end of the Torah portion where again he's telling them how to do the sacrifices, and God is telling them, and then God says to wear the fringes and with the blue one to remind you of me and what my rules are. And it seems like to me that was God providing them with a guide so they could remember, because obviously they had forgotten.
Yeah, well, I on the one hand, the notion about there's a recognition, a divine recognition that people are going to make mistakes, and some of the mistakes could be utterly disastrous. And so there is this, if you will, some kind of dispensation, if that's the right word, a kind of corrective ritual to kind of that on the one hand both acknowledges the imperfection and tries to keep people from doing anything that will be catastrophically. So thank you for that. And David, did you want to share?
I have nothing to say.
Okay. Let me go. Deborah.
Yep, thank you. So I found myself dwelling a lot on the opening phrase, the verse 2, the Shelach Lecha Nashim. And the directive by Yidaber Adonai al Moshe. And pondering, it's the imperative. It is like Shelach Manot, sending, right? Sending gifts. Sending to yourself, meaning that you have to face your fear. You have to bring yourself up, lift yourself up, and go forth and face what is completely unknown to you, despite descriptions that you heard of the promise, but be fully invested. It has to come from within you, and you have to face your fear in order to advance. You have to face the people who look like giants and the scary other tribal people or ancient Near Eastern peoples, and that leap has something to do with trust and emunah and faith, and that the people are truly, developmentally just B'nai Yisrael, they're children. And so they just want to retreat. They want to go back to the narrow place that they were, where it was safe. But it's also part of the evolution of their listening to God, of accepting the reality of a ineffable but anthropomorphic divine hand, so to speak, and stay with it. And then ultimately, this generation, they're not ready yet. They're not even ready the way Avraham was ready at the beginning. It has to do with evolution, but a lot, I think, has to do with facing fear. And I guess, at least for me personally, I see how you have to move through life that way. And that if you can't face your fears of the unknown, that you cannot evolve. You cannot ever get to a promised land, to that promised place, to the place you need to be, to become your higher self. And I love the use of the word. It's not la'alot, and I can't find the verse, but I think it's Caleb. Caleb didn't just go, but Caleb ascended, right? Ascended to a higher place spiritually. And that's what can happen, spiritual growth with.
This notion that you're raising about this, you have to face your fears, and you in the context of Shelach, Lecha, and so let's take it into what struck me when I came across it in the Talmud about the way at least one rabbi looks at one of the verses that we read. So first of all, what fascinates me is that the people really have no problem with the physical environment of the promised land. They don't have any complaints about that. They acknowledge that the objective conditions are indeed as God had promised them, because God had promised them back in Exodus, I'm going to take them to a land flowing with milk and honey. And the scouts come back and said, wow, it really is a place flowing with milk and honey, just like God said. And things only become problematic when they start to compare themselves with people that they saw. And what starts to unravel is kind of a litany, a trope about how we saw ourselves, and how we saw ourselves must be how the other people saw us too. It's not about the empirical evidence of what's there. It's all about the subjective experience of the people when the scouts when they were, and here one of their reaction is, as we read in chapter 14, verse 10, it said, the whole community planned to hurl stones at them, meaning Joshua and Caleb. And then it says the presence of God appeared in the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. So in the Talmud, a rabbi looks at that sentence and says, there's something odd about that sentence, grammatical. And I put the Hebrew for it in our study sheet, because normative Hebrew grammar has the verb coming before the subject of the verb. So, for example, in English, we say, Tom hit the ball, but Hebrew would say, hit Tom the ball. Okay. But what happens in our verse in our Torah portion is that the verb to throw comes, or the verb to appear comes after the noun for God. So in Hebrew, it reads, and the presence of God appeared. But the grammar in Hebrew should say, appeared the presence of God. Because of that, this rabbi reads the sentence to say that the whole community intended to hurl stones at them and the presence of God. In other words, what the rabbi is teasing out from this experience is the real object of the people's anxiety was not Joshua, not Caleb, not Aaron, not Moses. It was God. What about God that was causing anxiety for these people? God was true to God's word. He took him to a place that was flowing with milk and honey. And in what I get out of it, and what I think the rabbis are getting out of it, is they're mad at God because God was expecting them to do more than they felt they were capable of doing. That the expectation God had of them, the capacity to leave behind not only Egypt, but leave behind this wilderness and to go and settle this land, that they were of having that expectation of them, that it caused them to like develop this sense of, well, we're not up to it, and we're mad at you for thinking that we could be up to it. And so what becomes interesting in this portion for me anyway is that it reveals, I think, what the entirety of the focus of Torah is really all about. That the Torah presents itself as a narrative story about people doing things and going places, actions that they take. And I think that really what the Torah's primary focus is really not on objective conditions or external behavior. I think more of the Torah is really on the subjective responses.
Internal.
Yes, the internal, what's presented everywhere. And that is what this Torah portion presents, is that in highlighted focus. The highlighted focus, because what really is the subject of this story that we read tonight is what's going on inside of these people internally. The other fascinating thing to me is that there are so many commentaries that go all over the place about what are these anxieties about and what's wrong with these people. So on the one hand, we've got some pretty clear reason to think, as many commentators do, that that the people are afraid and they don't feel up to it, and they feel that only failure lies ahead, and we don't want to die, we don't want to fail, and we're going to be defeated by whoever lives there. And then, interestingly enough, you have some Hasidic commentary that says quite the opposite. For example, the rabbi of Chabad, Schneerson, Rabbi Schneerson, said, no, the people weren't afraid of failure, they were afraid of success. They were, and they didn't want to leave behind this very special relationship they had in the wilderness with God, and instead exchange that for settling in and building a country and a nation where you have to do things like develop business relationships, and you have to have an economy, and you have to have all the accoutrements of running no longer just a nomadic people, but running a settled nation. And I thought, well, what's the connecting point between those two different kinds of fears, a fear of death and failure and a fear of success? And here's what I think. I think that they were concerned not about the absence of God's power. That was clear to them. They had seen evidence of God's power, and they had seen evidence of God's trustworthiness in providing them what had been promised, a land flowing with milk and honey. I think what they were anxious about was the loss of intimacy with the presence of God. I think they were afraid that once we leave behind this special experience of wandering through this wilderness, being cared for with the intimate presence of God always with us, a cloud of fire by day, a cloud of fire by night, that once we enter into this land of Canaan and we set up our farms and raise our herds and we build our cities and we develop our trade routes, that we will become so successful at that we will lose the love connection, that we will lose the sense of intimacy, yes, with the mother or the father, however you want to put it. And they didn't want to give that up. and they didn't want to lose the love. And so um, I'll come back to the love in just a moment. But when I thought about how this portion was highlighting what the real subject matter of Torah is, that is the subjectivity of human experience, objective events. I thought, what work of art can I bring that will emphasize that subjectivity is really the focus of art. So I thought of Mark Rothko. Mark Rothko was one of the great abstract expressionists. And not only, like many abstract expressionists, did he eliminate the figure, did he eliminate clearly identified objects from the canvas. But for him, in particular, what he was seeking to explore and then present on canvas was the emotional dimension of the human being. And in particular, the emotional dimension of the human being in all of its encounters and experiences that would lead to something that he called the sublime. And so here's a quote from him. "I'm interested only in expressing basic human emotions, tragedy, ecstasy, doom, and so on. And the fact that lots of people break down and cry when confronted with my pictures shows that I communicate those basic human emotions. The people who weep before my pictures are having the same religious experience I had when I painted them." Painted them in such a way that he wanted people to become immersed in them. He made them so large that it was difficult to see outside the framework of the painting itself. That you didn't see the painting as somehow a detachment that was in front of you, but was something that you were immersed in. And he encouraged people to stand just 18 inches from these large paintings so that you would become immersed in the painting. And Torah wants that too. Torah wants us not just to be detached from it and to look at it with kind of an analytical mind. Torah wants us to be immersed in it and to see that what's being presented is not a story that's happened, but a story that's happening. I think that's what Mark Rothko wanted too. He doesn't want to paint something to show you something that happened. He said, my paintings are not representations of an experience, they are the experience. And as if when one looks at them, it is a provocation for our own self-exploration. And he said, I'm not presenting a conclusion. I'm not presenting an instruction. I'm not presenting a message. I'm here creating a vista in which you can explore and experience what's happening inside of yourself. So here's this notion about love that I mentioned, is as Canavard was pointing out, the true nature, the true title for this portion is Shelach Lecha. And as Rose was also pointing out, connecting it with the Parshat and Genesis, Lecha for Abraham. And is indeed, as Rose pointed out, the interpretation is God saying, I'm not telling you to send scouts out. But if you're going to send scouts out, make sure that you're doing it as a way to understand yourself. And this is going to be done for your benefit, not mine. And what the people are experiencing is this moment where they are experiencing this anxiety about the possibility of losing contact with love. And once that has been opened up, once that has been this unity that has existed that existed at the very beginning of the book of Numbers. Once that unity has been shattered, then it becomes possible to find out something much deeper. It becomes possible to find out what is really going on inside of oneself, inside of a community. And it can be then possible to begin to construct a new self. And that's what the journey across the Midbar is. It is a deconstruction of self, born as a slave self, to be born again as a sovereign self. And the only way to do that is to begin to shatter all these false unities that one has been carrying, all these lies one has been telling about oneself. And so this is this moment here where this shattering happens when the scouts say, yeah, we can't do it. That becomes the moment when it becomes possible to explore, well, what is it really that is causing this anxiety? What's causing this anxiety is that God expects so much of us. God expects us to be able to farm and herd and build cities and build trade routes and have a foreign policy and all those things that countries do, and still have love in their lives. And that's going to become the ongoing journey of a people. And that's the ongoing journey of each of us as well. To know that the gift of love has been always with us. That's a divine gift. And the journey of the self is to recognize that one is worthy of that love. And one has capacity for that love. And so that's what I saw in this week's portion. And if others want to share as well at this moment, happy to hear further thoughts. Richard, do you have something more you'd like to say?
Between 5 and 6, the aim of unity should not be to overcome these disruptions, but to find ways to live well with them. Ironically, the unity that is available to us is a peculiar form of disunity. And I'm thinking about Trump and Putin dealing with the unwinnable and trying to make peace. But this is what's going on in this portion as well. How do we do this? Wow. Has it been really possible to govern people over time? Doesn't everyone fail at some point? And the only thing that can change that is how we ourselves see things and how we interpret what others are seeing, as you point out here. Who told you that they see you as grasshoppers? How do you know they're not seeing you as angels? That we need to learn to look for that in others and not to wipe them out, whatever. And maybe that is impossible, and maybe that is his existential situation. And God is saying, okay, you know how to love, bring it to life. And it's very hard to vote for anybody who'd run for office.
So I appreciate that Richard was referring to this midrash that I have on the study sheet. So, and I just want to go back to that just for a moment. This is the midrash, so number 4 on the study sheet. They said, we look like grasshoppers in our own eyes. God said, this I can overlook. And so we looked in their eyes. Now I'm angry. Do you know how I made you look in their eyes? Who told you that you didn't look like angels in their eyes? So the two parts of this midrash that I find just so heartfelt is this. The midrash acknowledges that God recognizes that people have fears and they have shortcomings. and they have anxiety. That's just part of going through life. I get that, God says. I get that you're worried. I get that you feel like you're not up to it at this moment. You and I, we can take care of that, okay? But this notion that you're now projecting onto others how they're seeing you, that really upsets me. Why? Because now you are disabling your capacity to have a relationship with someone else because you've already decided what they think of you and how they perceive you. And that is going to be ultimately destructive of the whole human enterprise. Human weakness, we got ways to deal with that. But once you start assuming how someone's looking at you and thinking about you, then the whole human dialogue is going to come to a crashing collapse. So I just, I'm taken by this acknowledgement that we're frail, but we become more incapable of dealing with our frailties when we start freezing other people in our minds about who they are and how they think of us. So this journey towards recognizing that we are capable of love, and that's ultimately what this Shelach, I think, is all about. It's all about discovering that the way to find love is to first find within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And once you become, once you've explored yourself and you've kind of shed all these different minimizing notions about yourself, love becomes just a blossoming flower, and not only a blossoming flower within, but becomes the gift that you have to offer others as well.
Mm.
Margot, you wanted to share something. Yeah, Margot?
Yeah, yes. I know we're God's children. If anything illustrates it more than this chapter, I don't know what does. The Israelites are muttering, they're whining the way children whine, and God is impatient with them the way parents are impatient with children when they whine. God tells us once again how to do the offerings, because as with children, you have to repeat over and over and over again the instructions. And then at the end, a child wanting love, God says, "Yes, I will love you, but you will be punished." I mean, if anything was like a parent and a child, this chapter.
Lovely. So, my friends, we don't make these discoveries just isolated from one another. These discoveries of our capacity to love and be loved. It takes being with one another and in relationship with one another. I'm so grateful to be with you and in relationship with you and on this journey together. And I look forward to our next gathering. God bless you all and be well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And God bless us all.